In the second set of slides for Geography 1700, I wanted to reflect for a few minutes on the nature of the geospatial industry and how that relates to the program in geospatial technology here at Lakeland Community College. One of the most important events in GIS education within the last several decades has been the emergence and the development of the geospatial technology competency model. This is one of about 20 competency models that have been developed by the U.S. Department of Labor. They tend to focus on fields and areas that tend to be emerging and changing occupations where people may need to have a better understanding of exactly what it is that someone should know in order to pursue a career in that field. So the GTCM was developed through a process that took several years of cooperation between the U.S. Department of Labor and the federal government and representatives of the geospatial industry, which basically means companies that do mapping, organizations that develop and run GIS software, federal government and state government agencies that typically make frequent use of GIS tools and mapping. And in the GTCM, there are three different levels of competencies that have been identified. Those are technical competencies, workplace competencies, and personal competencies. And it's the goal of the Geospatial Technology program at Lakeland to offer a full set of courses that can speak to all three of these areas of competencies. And so our program, when it was developed in 2011, was the first program in the state of Ohio and one of the few at that time in the country that had integrated the GTCM principles into the way that we divided up our courses and set up our courses. And so you'll begin to understand as you move through the class this semester that we are at kind of the starting stages in learning GIS skills. It's just part of what we do in geospatial technology is actually what you're doing on the computer. And you'll get a better understanding of that as time goes on. But it includes areas within the technical sector that relate to using geographic data, data acquisition and positioning, and then management of data and integration of data into projects and things like that. Spatial analysis, which we'll talk about a bit in the next set of slides. And then also workplace competencies, all the things that employers are looking for, people who can solve problems, who can use thinking skills. These are the areas that relate to the way that you apply your critical thinking skills that set you apart from other people within the field. And then the personal effectiveness competencies, which are very important as well, which relate to things like professionalism, integrity, initiative, a desire and understanding of what's required for lifelong learning. These are all skills that are reflected within the curriculum of the GIS classes here at Lakeland. When a student completes the 2-year GIS degree, which is the Associate of Applied Science degree, our vision is that student then is able to go out and become a GIS technician or GIS assistant. With a 4-year degree, if someone then goes on and transfers, then you could come in at the level of a GIS specialist or analyst, and then with a graduate degree, a GIS information officer, manager, or scientist. Our certificate program fits in a way that it kind of depends on what your professional and educational background is. The certificate is intended mostly for students with some previous college experience who are coming in either with an associate's degree or a bachelor's degree, and they're adding a 1-year certificate program to basically add some skills that they're going to use in their job. So we typically think of certificate students as people who will do GIS as a significant part of their job in a related field, but they may not just do GIS, whereas someone coming out with the Associate of Applied Science will either transfer on to a 4-year degree program or would go into the workforce as a technician or a similar kind of position like that. As we've developed the program here at Lakeland, we have been highly dependent on grant funding. And so we've been supported by a grant from the Finn Fund of the Cleveland Foundation and also from the Dominion Foundation Higher Education Partnership. And so currently we are in the 2nd year of our Geospatial Pathways project, which essentially has 4 goals. And those goals are to develop academic and career pathways for students to be able to go into geospatial jobs or transfer to 4-year academic programs, to support student success by developing a GIS professional network, which is going on now. And this basically brings guest speakers and mentors into the program and brings students into contact with people who are professionals in GIS, to create a Women in GIS group, which is also up and running in its first year, and then a variety of special support services for geospatial students. Third, then experiential education, that we want to increase the number of students who are out there doing experiential learning. This could be anything from attending professional meetings to completing the internship requirement to doing a 1 day or 2 or 3 hour job shadow. And then also to build awareness in the field, as you're probably familiar with this concept. If you have told someone you're taking GIS, they might ask you, what the hell is that? And what are you going to do with it? And what is it? And how does that fit together? And how does that work? And all kinds of questions, many of which you probably can't answer at this point, but we'll get to that later on. Then in terms of the way that we kind of see this pathway emerging here at Lakeland, is that most of our students either enter the workforce directly as a GIS technician, or they transfer to a bachelor's degree program at Cleveland State, University of Akron, or possibly at Kent State in a related field. So it might not directly be in GIS, or it could be in a very closely related field. And we have more information available for students interested in that within the department. Okay, so that's the end of the slide set for slide set 2.